Welcome to week 4 of the comp105 Python course. So this week we will cover strings and text files. So we've already seen a little bit about strings. A string is basically a collection of characters separated by quotations, something like this. There can be spaces, numbers, special characters, letters, uppercase, lowercase. Anything you think of as text can usually be written down as a string. So far we've printed strings and we've converted numbers to strings and back and forth. Today we'll look a little deeper into the structure of strings. So the first thing we can check is, does a string contain a substring? So by a substring, what we mean is a string that's inside the string. So let's look at an example. So going back to this example right here, ring is a part of string. So you can see right here, the complete word ring is basically embedded inside the word string. So another example, and in band. So the answer for this should be true. And if I put another letter here like H, that is not a substring of band, and we should get false. Alright, so this is useful like if you have maybe you have a long string and you're looking for some kind of substring. So for example, if John in John Doe, and imagine you have a whole bunch of other text, like a big paragraph of text. So we can search for the substring, print found. Alright, so let's run this, and it found it. Now if I make this a lowercase John, then it didn't find it, and it didn't print found. Alright, so next thing we should know about strings is how to calculate their length. So if we look at this string right here, and we run this little box of code, the answer is 14. So if you count the characters in Hello World 22, including the spaces, you should get 14. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the length of the string is 14. Now if you want to access the individual characters of the string, you could do this with a for loop. So for I in range, length of string, so txt is the name of our string, So let's print I and txt bracket I. So what we're doing here is I is going to range from 0 to 13, right? The length of text, length of the string is 14, so this range will go from 0 to 13. We're going to go through the string one character at a time, and we're going to print I, which is the position of the character. Alright, so this 14 right here is from the length of the string. We did that already. And then as you can see, 0 corresponds to the H. That's the index of H. 1 corresponds to the E. Right, that's the index of E. And then at the end, this last 2, the second 2, that's the index of the second 2 is 13. So just note the length of the string is 14, but the indexes start at 0 and end at 13. Alright, sometimes it's useful to slice a string, to take a substring of it. So this is the slice notation right here. What it means is we want to start at position 3 and end before we get to 11. So here's position 3 up here, and we want to stop at 11 minus 1. So we don't want the space. We want to go from LO space, all of these, this substring right here, from 3 to 10. So 3 to 10 inclusive would be the 3 to 11, where the Python notation always ends one before the final limit. All right, so as you can see, we get hello world. If we go to 3 to 5, then it's just LO. So that would be 3, 4, and that's it. If we want the W, we would have to go to 7, because we need to capture the 6. So let's put a 7 there. And there we go. All right, we've already seen concatenation. So when you use a plus sign between two strings, it simply puts them together. And if you multiply a string by an integer, it simply concatenates it repeatedly. So n is 5, world is our string, that's A. B is n times A, so it just concatenates world with itself 5 times. Alright, so let's take a look at this exercise here, exercise 4.01. I recommend you pause the video and try to solve this on your own. And then we'll go over it in a few minutes. Okay, so we want to write a loop, a for loop that counts the number of letter A's in a user inputted sentence. So let's first get a string from the user. So txt equals input, enter a string. Alright, so text is our string that we got from the user. Now we want to count the letter A's. Okay, so we're going to go through the string one character at a time. There are several ways we could do this, and I'll show you at least 2. So let's get the length of our string. N equals len All right, that's the length of our string. So to traverse a string, you say for I in range n, where n is the length of the string. Okay. So now we're going to go through each letter one at a time. txt bracket I, that will access each letter. So you want to check if txti is in either A or A. So this is a nice way to do it. I'm checking to see if the character is one of these two characters. But the way that you would probably do this yourself is you'd say if txti double equal to A or txti double equals to capital A. So this way is fine too. If this is the case, then we need to count. We need a counting variable. So let's increment count by 1, but we need to initialize count, right? So count equals 0. So let's start count right there and initialize the count. It starts off at 0. Every time we find the letter A, we add 1 to the variable count. And then finally, after the for loop is over, let's print we found count letter A. Leave a few spaces so that it prints a little nicer. All right, so let's give it a try. Enter a string. I like to type the letter A lot. So it looks like we should get 2, correct? 2 letter A's there. And correct, we found 2 letter A's. You might want to test it out with some special cases. How about a string with no letter A's? That works. Let's try a lot of letter A's. All right, seems to work. All right, another way to solve this problem, a more Pythonic way, is to, instead of using the indices of the characters, what you could do is you could just do it like this. So let me shorten this a bit. You'd say for x in txt. X will represent each character. So then you could say x here and x here. So you don't really need to know the length of the string. Python has a little shortcut for going through the string. It can just grab characters one by one, and it keeps track of the length for you. All right, so let's run this. All right, and as you can see, it still works. All right, so in order to upload files, we need to use some special Google commands. Unfortunately, I'm working from my office at the academy, and I can't access the internet on this computer. So I'm going to have to make a different small video later that will show you how to open and close files, the way you would do it yourself. So I will do that, but maybe I can just say a little now. You might be able to figure it out on your own. So this code will allow you to upload a file. You need to upload text files. So what you would have to do is go to Microsoft Word and create a text file, save it as a text file. Save it in some folder, maybe where the rest of your notes are, and then when you run this code here, you will be able to upload the text file. A text file is a file that is human, that's human readable. For example, this is a text. This could be a text file. Any of the reports you write for classes, if you forget about all the formatting characters and figures and pictures, that's basically a text file. Any web page is a text file, and in a certain manner. So text files are the simplest type of way of storing data. They're if you need speed and more robustness, you would use a binary file. Alright, so just picture like a Word file that you've saved on the disk, and that should be the image you have in your mind of a text file. Alright, so we're going to save a file on your local computer called myfile.txt, and then we're going to open it. So let me show you how I could do it on. You won't be able to do it this way, but this is an equivalent way of doing it if you have access to your own computer at some point. All right, so here's a text editor. It's called BB Edit. It's a free, powerful editor. It's used mostly for coding and stuff. Here is a text file in new line. So every time you hit the enter key, you get a new line, another new line, another new line, maybe some numbers and letters. All right, that's enough. Now notice you can also have new lines like this. There really is something here. You just can't see it. If I had a little more time, maybe I could show you all the hidden characters, but I don't remember exactly how to do it. But there is a way to reveal. So right here, there's a \n, 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 \n. If I hit the tab key, there's some special characters over there too. All right, so let me save this as in my folder with my comp105 notes, myfile.txt. Don't put any spaces in your letter in the name of your file. It'll mess up Python. All right. All right. So let me try to load it. And as you can see, it seems to have worked. Notice things are a lot faster here because I'm running Python locally on my machine. When you run Python, you're doing it on a virtual computer. So things are not going to be this fast. All right. So anyone interested in loading Python on a personal computer, just let me know and I'll help you. And I'll tell you how to do it. Okay, so here's the text file. So we open the text file. R stands for read. Read the file. There are two arguments, options we're going to use. Read and write. So R is for read, W is for write. Write means create. R is just to read it without modifying it, without destroying it, without overwriting it. R is safe, W is more dangerous. Okay. S equals f dot read with the parentheses. Parentheses because it's a function call. We'll start to learn more about functions soon. So what we did is we read the entire contents of the file into the string S. And then close F. So open the file, read it into a string in one command, print the file, close. See, let's say we wanted to go through the character one at a time. We could say for S in, so for character in S, print character. So if you run it this way, you can see it took each character and it displayed it separately. All right. Okay. Now, in the code below, what is the purpose of the end equals? Well, why don't we take it out? So let's take it out first and see what happens. Now let's put it in. All right, so as you can see, something strange happened with double spacing, right? If you're ever not sure about something in Python, other than simply asking ChatGPT or looking up the answer online, you could just experiment and learn a lot just by experimenting. That's a great way to learn Python. All right, so what the line does is, so here's the deal. We open up the file. F is the file handler. F is like an abstract representation of the file. So as far as Python is concerned, F is the file. All right, so we open the file. F is an open file. And lines equals f dot read lines. Well, why don't we see what this looks like? So let's print lines. So here's what lines looks like. It's a list. It's a list of strings. You see the commas here? Each comma separates a line. So what it does is it puts each line in a string, and notice it gave us the special characters that I was talking about before. See the \n and the \t. This is what a file looks like to the computer. It interprets the \n as a new line and the \t as a tab, skipping 4 or so characters. Now, when you print each line. So S goes through the list of lines, and S represents one of these strings, one at a time. When it prints, when you use the command print, it automatically adds a new line to the end of your output. It's just the built-in behavior of print. But if your string already has a new line, then you're going to get two new lines. And that's why you will get the double space. So for S in lines, goes through each line one at a time. Now, there is something we could do that might be a little, that's more useful. W equals S dot strip. So there's a way to strip the new line out of the, looks like I've messed this up a little bit. All right, I'll try to fix it. So I believe it's called strip S, but I might have to look it up. And let's see, let's print W. And let's not forget to close our file in case like another application has to use the same file. F.close. All right, so let's see if I got this right. All right, no, strip is not the correct syntax. Let me just try one last thing and then I'll go on. All right, I think I got it. All right, so S.strip. So what the strip does is it takes away the \n. It takes away the characters that you don't really need at the end of a string. It's a nice way to format a string and take away any formatting characters at the end. All right, so if we didn't do this, if I commented this out and I printed S, as you can see, it'll print it with a new line. All right, in and of itself, it's not that big of a deal, but it is important to understand the new line, because every time you get a new line, you get that special \n, and you need to know how to deal with it properly for files. All right, how do we create a file? So that's our next order of business, how to create a file. All right, we use W. So we use W as the option. So F is equal to a new file handler, and the file we're creating is called newFile.txt. So Python can create files on its own. You don't need to use Word to create one. Now, how does this work? So F is the file handler. So F is the interface to the file. W means write. Then we use the f.write method, and it just writes all this text to the file. And if you want a new line, you basically have to tell Python to put a new line here using the \n. All right, so this \n here means new line after this. So it's this will be the first line, and then this will be the second line. All right, so let's run it. There's no output because we didn't request any, but now let's open it. All right, so if you go to your directory, you oh, I can't show it here. Let me just show you what it looks like. So if I go back to BBEdit, I can open up the file. Um, so here's my directory with my Python files. And notice I created this file right here, new file.txt. It was created today. It's 28 bytes, which is probably the number of characters. And here's what we have. So that's what the file looks like, in an editor, in a file editor. All right, close that. And here's what Python makes of it. So here's how it opens up the file. Notice there is a line here. See, if I take away this, \n, and I run it again, and I open it, see, there's no blank line now. So that would give you a blank line. All right. Let's see how much more we have today. Oh, looks like we're almost done. Okay. All right, so let's create a file with random integers between 10 and 15. Each will be on its own line. All right, so first we start with the random library. Make sure we can generate random numbers, right? Okay, then create a new file. So line 2 creates a new file called integers_a.txt. And W stands for create or write. All right. How many numbers are we going to be putting in our file? Well, let's make that a random parameter. Line 3 says that's going to be n. How do I know that? Well, I did have to look ahead. There's no way to know that so far. Okay, all right, but let's pretending I didn't know the rest of the program. All we know so far is n is a random number between 10 and 15 inclusive. All right, now for j in range n, so we're going to, whatever number n is, 13 for example, j will go from 0 to 12 if n was 13. Get an integer, a random integer between 0 and 100, but immediately convert it to a string. So my int is not really an integer. This is misleading. It's actually a string version of an integer, because that is what you write to text files. I didn't emphasize this before, but you only write strings to text files. Okay, f.write my int, and then I'm concatenating a new line character so that each ends up on its own line. All right, so let's run this. All right, it created the file, and let's see what it looks like. All right, so here's what the file looks like. You'll get a different answer every time you run it. So let's run it again. And we have a different list of integers. each on its own line. Notice we do end up with one blank line. A neat little exercise would be, can you make it so that the last one, it does not have a new line after it? Right? And to do that, you'd have to go to n-1 here, and then you'd have to handle the nth one separately. I don't really think it's worth confusing people who might be a little confused to go through that, but it's a little exercise you might want to try. All right, so we do have a few more things to do. Write code to find the average of the numbers below, of the file in the file below. First read in the file and then do the math. I think we might mean the file above. So we created this file above, integers a.txt. Why don't we open it and try to calculate the average of each of those numbers. All right, so let's start by opening. So I would pause the video here and try to solve this yourself first. All right, so let's see. So I'm going to go line by line. So the preferred way to open up a file line by line is use the read lines. So lines equals f.read lines. And let's print lines just to see what it looks like. Do this in stages and see that you have each step working before you make your program too long, because then it would be very hard to calculate. All right. Now, I don't know if we could convert each line directly to an integer. Let's try. I believe we're going to get an error message. So for x in lines, w equals the integer version of x. I predict we'll get an error message here, but let's just check. Didn't seem to complain. Let's print w. Okay, so here's the original list of lines. And notice it looks like I did successfully convert it. If you wanted to be safe, you could do it like this. This is what I thought they'd have to do, x.strip. Get rid of that new line character there, and then there'd be nothing to worry about at all. But either way, it worked. So what we did so far is we converted, and we don't need this, we converted each line to the actual number. We converted the string number to the numerical number. All right, we need to average, right? So let's add up all the numbers. So start with a running sum, s equals 0, s plus equals w, right? And then after we added up all the numbers, well, we need to know how many lines there are, right? So n equals the length of lines. How many lines are there? And then finally we could say print the average is, and then we would print s divided by n. All right, so the average is 38.7333. All right, this is a bit complicated. It's going to take a little while before you'll be able to do things like this. But please go over this carefully and really try your best to understand it. All right, create a file then input a sentence of text into the file and save it. All right, this is a little easier. So text equals input, enter a line, and then let's f equals open. Let's call it myfile2.txt, and we want to create it, right? f.write txt, f.close. All right, so let's give it a try. Here is a line of text. All right, so let me open up this file with my file editor. You could open it up in Python too. Here's my file text.2. And as you can see, it successfully created the file. All right. I think it's safe to skip this part right here. This creates the file below. It was used last term with one of the in-class problems to help start one of these problems. It's a little bit complicated, but it's worth studying. The line dot split is a little bit advanced, but I think we should skip this for now. If you're more advanced, then I recommend you read up on split. It's a useful it's a useful command. But if you're just beginning and you're confused, then skip this last part here. All right, so I'm going to stop the video here, and you should work on the in-class programming problems. And the next video, I'll solve these in-class programming problems for you.